Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's get stuck into a video, shall we? Let's see how far I can go with this rubbish laptop and internet connection. Starting off with the dominance chart, which has now hit major resistance, 64% dominance basically. This area has been on this chart, waiting to be hit. To be fair, we were hoping that it was going to be the prior resistance, but it wasn't. But it's been on this chart since forever, since the last bull market basically. 2018 we came up and hit this area, bang, all the way down, and then we came up, bang, big rejection, and then when we finally broke out of it, that's when the super resistance, the 73% dominance area gets hit, and if we ever get back up to that area, I'm going all in. I'm selling everything, house, kidneys, cars, the lot. It's all going into altcoins, as it did around here, where we enjoyed, obviously, the biggest alt season known to man, other than this one, really, but yeah, this wasn't. But if anything, this was just the inception of altcoins, basically. So yeah, I honestly don't know if we're going to get a reaction at all around this area, given what's going on in the markets at the moment. However, I am hopeful. I am hopeful, and I've added to altcoin positions yesterday. Nothing special. No, there's only one thing that I bought that I haven't previously bought much of, which is XVG, and again, it's a huge risk, but I did it anyway. And I bought it using Ethereum actually, so yeah, just put Ethereum into it, right? Ethereum that I already own, so it's not fresh money going into it; it's just rotation money. So what I'm looking for really is between now and the end of the year, this to fall off a cliff and to break down. Not only because we're at resistance, but we've been looking at this now for a little while. The money flow index on the on the dominance chart is now at a weekly 86, which doesn't sound much, and it's not that much when you compare it to just an altcoin or just anything generally speaking. Really, 86 is high, obviously worth being guarded, but it wouldn't be anything that anyone would look at and go, well, me on a weekly and go, right, that's it, and tops in. But for the dominance chart, you've got to look back in time to see how high it's gone in the past and what reactions you've had from these high areas. So at this current moment in time, the money flow index is the third highest it's ever been. The highest it was ever was back in November 2025. Just remember these dates. And the other time prior to that was around August, September, sorry, around July 2018. That's when it was the highest. So basically, peak of bear market kind of territory, really, or significant bear market territory. So when we look back and go, all right, okay, what normally happens when you have an overheated money flow index read on the Bitcoin dominance chart? Well, here's a big one, obviously, big alt season. Here's another one over here, big alt season. And basically, I'm just pointing out to you that it is high and we are at resistance. So if you were to look at this chart and take it for anything that it's worth, and I don't know how much it's worth at the moment, but if you were to look at it and take it for what it's worth, you'd say if there were to be a time when a significant low was formed on altcoins and massive returns could be received shortly after, or say within, throughout the rest of this year, so 6 months, 9 months, whatever, then this would be generally an area where you would expect such a response. But the problem is, everybody else and everything else, which has always been the problem now for going on a few weeks or months really, but how stocks have basically been so sad and boring and terrible that we're kind of worried about it just as a whole. So stocks now coming all the way down very fast towards the 200 simple and exponential on a weekly. A bit of hidden bull cancelled out. Now in the past, COVID, bang, ricochet. Bear market, bang, ricochet. So there's a chance that we do go lower than this, obviously. Actually, I'd say there's quite a good chance that we do go lower than this, and it'll take everything else with it. The areas on the chart that we were looking at, 4,600 roughly. Then we've got, I'd probably say below that is around 4,200. And prior to that, you could even go all the way down to pre-pandemic highs, not lows, but pre-pandemic highs, maybe down into the 3,000s. It could easily happen, and obviously everything else would come down with it. Now, with the result of something quite chaotic and catastrophic, the money printers ought to turn on. They're probably thinking of turning on already, to be honest with you. And it's like I was saying yesterday, inflation's low, oil's going even lower. Inflation's likely to go to the point where it turns into a deflationary scenario if oil keeps dripping down the way it does. Oil also goes down in anticipation for recession. That's just something you just got to be aware of. So yeah, oil prices going down because of recession, blah blah blah. When recession kicks in, less demand, blah blah blah. And if we're all going into this national frame of mind, then yeah, tariffs will probably say, all right, there's less stuff being transported from here to there and all over the place. Less demand, basically. Less demand, more supply, less demand, cheaper prices. And I suppose that's all going into the idea. And again, I'm not some political fanboy of anybody here. I'm just saying it does feed into the strategy that's taking place here. You want to bring prices down? Buy local. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. What's the cost of bringing a chicken from 20 miles away to your house? Minimal. What's the cost of bringing a chicken from UK to, I don't know, America or wherever it's going? Quite high. So thinking about it in those terms, yeah, oil again, reduced demand. So yeah, if we're going into this recession, or even just if the tariffs actually do mean that produce gets sold regionally, locally, wherever, then yeah, less demand. So and that is the reality of what's taking place, or should I say the perceived reality, because we don't really know if these tariffs will last long. They might just disappear. If a deal gets made, who knows? But at the moment, that's the perception, and we've seen oil go down. It's currently sitting at 61, so again, it's broken a lot of supports now. So altcoins could, and I think there's a very good chance that they will have a very significant rally at this point. Maybe even marks such significant lows that the lows are actually in. Now, when you're talking about altcoins, there's so many to choose from. You don't know what's best. My rule is only buy into the strong. Do you have brand new fresh lows being printed at the moment? If so, well, it's a massive gamble. If you have higher lows being printed, then actually that's a good idea. And one of my favorites, not that I'm suggesting anybody buys this, but I've had this idea now for over a year, which is buying Atom, holding Atom for a long period of time, enjoying the staking rewards for a period of years, many years, in the hope that I can achieve something known as passive income, which is a bit of it's a long shot really. Passive income is, in a stock or in a crypto, there's a large element of luck, but a decent portion of time that needs to be applied to something like that. My view is that if I buy Atom, hold Atom, stake Atom for between 16 and 20% APR for a period of like 10 years or something like that, and for whatever reason it's able to hold and sustain prices above $50, well, hopefully above $100, then really I should be living the dream at that point, because I could live off that. I could live off that. I'd be earning a lot every single day, pretty significant returns. And we've come down to an area on the chart which is effectively a horizontal area, just above horizontal area of support. Now, this is a Rex City chart, okay? But on the weekly, we do have significant bullish divergence on the weekly, one driver of which I do really appreciate. And if we do come down lower, you'd also look to be getting a single drive on the money flow index. Now, that's just the weekly. The daily, the 4 hourly, none of that looks particularly interesting. And again, I'm not highlighting this as anything special. This is a weak ass chart, something that should be considered a bit of a gamble. But I highlight it because it's one of those altcoins which does have utility and a use case, and is actually relatively important. So it's not a meme coin. It's not nothing like that. It's not the next best thing. It is something with certain technological value to it, and a team which, again, I don't want to sound like one of those crypto fanboys. Oh, the team, or the project. Well, the reason I'm touting it, from that perspective, is that it's unlikely to be a rug pull scam, is what I'm saying. Or it's less likely. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it's less likely. If I was to be buying something that's just come out, or less than a year old, and everybody's pumping it and it's rallied and 1,000%, that's not the one for me. If anything, it would be something like this, which it has been going sort of seriously downhill since the bear market, really, where it did a really decent bounce, from its lows, which is roughly around here to around $17 just on a dead cat bounce. You know how XRP has basically been consolidating and accumulating for about 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then it breaks out, and even now it's hanging around what, $1.87. That goes against everything everybody would ever have thought, apart from me. You know, everybody's. You know, I used to make videos on XRP, especially leading out up into this breakout, and I was, you know, adamant that something should be happening this year, when it did. You know, the amount of things I get back, you know, oh, XRP is supposed to be at 50 cents. Don't you understand that? It's designed to say 50 cents. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then why is everything else generally making new lows? And actually, that's just making a very significant higher low. You know, I don't really remember. You know, sometimes um, the most popular thing that everybody thinks. If everybody's thinking the same thing, you're usually wrong. People get swept up in, you know, collective thinking, don't they? You know, and if everybody says one thing and laughs at one thing, it doesn't mean that they're right. It just means that lots of people are wrong. And that's very often the case in crypto, and very often the case in any kind of trading environment. I get a lot of people say, oh, can I buy Nvidia? I says, well, you don't want to buy Nvidia, really. I mean, what do you want from Nvidia now? I mean, Nvidia has outperformed pretty much everything over the last period of years. Do you really want to buy it when it's significantly higher? You're getting used to those high prices, you know, and that's something you don't want to do. And then what I'm trying to point out is don't get complacent at low prices. You know, don't think that it's all over just because it's never worked. Anyway, yeah, the daily doesn't look very good. The 4 hourly is not worth looking at. The weekly is the most important, and then the dominance chart to that. So let's finish with a little bit of Bitcoin then, shall we? And then we'll leave it at that, because I imagine this video is very hard to watch with this connection and this laptop. So we have now received a single drive of bullish divergence on the daily here. We are getting death crosses, which does invite a move into a death cross, even if it's just a dead cat bounce. That's what we'd be looking for. Dead cat bounce could take you to $85,000 easily. And if it does break from there, we are talking about full reversal kind of territory. Let's have a look on the higher term time frame. Let's have a look at a weekly to see what we get on the weekly. Again, hidden and regular bullish divergence on the RSI while sitting around the 50 exponential moving average, which is all part of a weekly golden cross. A series of highs, lows, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. And now we've got this as well. So it's in keeping with the idea that this is still a decent bull market, and the territory for reversal and time frame is going to be around this area, wherever the price may be. Where this white line kicks in, we should be at a new all-time high around there, which is again around September. You know, I know that there's panic in the market and everybody's scared, but when you look at the chart like this, currently it does still say bull market is absolutely still the case, and continuation is the most likely scenario. I mean, there's nothing much more to say about it than that. I know it's difficult to digest sometimes when you look at everything else and when you hear everybody else, but from a chart perspective, this is an uptrend still, and it's at a major support. So look, I hope that it does bounce from here, and if it doesn't, it's still able to put higher lows in at 71,000. It could even put a significant low in around 51, 52,000. Don't think it has the power to drop that far, but if it did, oh my goodness, you can imagine. It would be an epic place to enter into a position. Epic. Doesn't mean it's the low, but it would be epic. And it could happen, but is it going to happen? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. Again, we're in a tricky situation at the moment, aren't we, with all this stuff? A little lower than that, we've got $66,000 on the monthly Bollinger Band Center, between 66, 67, depends on if you're going for the exponential or simple moving average. But recognise we still have a significant drive of bearish divergence on the monthly. You know, whether or not that is something that could play out into a super bear market or the absolute end, I don't know. Again, we target 50,000 if it does go any lower. 50,000 probably should mark the absolute low if we are in a bear market. So yeah, it's not that bad, really. It's not that bad at all. Again, what did Michael Saylor always say? Best time to buy Bitcoin is always 5 years ago. So, obviously that is the case because when I bought my, the vast majority of my Bitcoins, it was around about 2019 at 4,000. So you can't really complain with that at all. The second time I bought quite a lot of Bitcoin, it was around 21,000. Again, can't really complain with that. Find it quite unlikely that it's going to go down either of those entry points for me. But it could. Of course it could. But I don't think it will. So when people complain about the store of value argument, I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. I can't even complain about it with my Ethereum by, $160 for all the Ethereums that I bought. Well, the vast majority. I did buy some recently, actually, around about $3,000. But still, when you work out the average cost, it's significantly good. But I don't think this is a bear market for crypto. I still think that this is all part and parcel of the 4-year cycle, which is always going to be subject to change, like it was in the previous 4-year cycle when we had an enormous rupture in the economic fabric, didn't we, with the March crash. And we still recovered significantly and actually made so much money that we didn't know what to do with it. Um, I think we could be looking at something similar. Maybe not quite so significant, because that was extreme, but something still to mark the cycle peak around September of this year. So look, it's good. We're in April at the moment. We've still got several months to go before I believe a peak is given. I'm looking at everything, any price, any significant low price, like the ones that we've received at the moment, just yesterday, as opportunity, big opportunity. Again, it's because I overlay my analysis is still unbroken, generally unchanged, and my expectations remain the same. The only way that I will have to say that that is wrong is when it's actually broken down and is wrong. And I can't say that the 4-year cycle is broken until 4 years have elapsed and we've deviated from the model. It's only really something that you could say has changed in hindsight. It's not something you could say has changed halfway through a cycle or getting towards the end of a cycle. I don't think that is the case. I still think we're still very much intact. I mean, I know we are. Look at us. Series of high highs, high lows, continuing to make those runs. But I would be very cautious as we approach September if we are running to new all-time highs, not to get complacent, not to change the goalpost, and to actually, do take some serious profit. Unless, of course, you've got a ridiculous idea like holding Atom for 10 years. But remember, that is a very different strategy to what most people are going to be promoting or even referring to or doing anything. No one's going to be talking about doing something quite as ridiculous as that. The only reason I've picked Atom is for the staking rewards and the fact that I don't think it's a rug pull. Um, it's not because I think it's going to be a millionaire starter kit. I'm trying to hedge my bets and chase certain cryptos that I could hold for a very long period of time, other than Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP, which have all worked out extremely well over a long period of time. The only problem with those things is that you can't stake them for anywhere near the same amounts. You'd need a lot more of them, a lot more to achieve something like passive income where you're making like £500 a day, which is what I'm aiming for really in 10 years. So £500 a day every day for the rest of my life. 10 years from now, I'm willing to chase that dream. All right, it doesn't take that much to achieve that really. If it were to work out the way I think it's going to work out, all you need is £20,000 worth of Atom in right now, and then see where you are in 10 years. But I appreciate not everybody has £20,000 to experiment with. Um, luckily I do. But I appreciate that is quite a big commitment, to put your money to work for a 10-year period. And who knows, crypto projects they change. Let's just say 5 years down the line, they say, okay, well, staking rewards are going to be a lot less. And I'm like, okay, that's unfortunate because that is my 10-year plan out the window. So look, there's a big gamble there. But overall, the market is still a series of high highs, high lows, unbroken model so far. Expectation is that we should still reach the goal by September. Right. If that was useful, please let me know. I should be back tomorrow at some point to achieve the normal live streams. So if you want to sign up for that, it's just in the Patreon. Links in the description below. Other than that, though, hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.